Welcome back to CIA Declassified. When we look at Project MK Ultra, it's easy to focus solely on the drugs, the LSD, the hallucinogens, the truth serums. But today's focus, Subproject 130 of MK Ultra, reveals that the CIA understood chemicals were only half of the equation for total mind control. The other half was context. The goal of Subproject 130 was to create the perfect asset, someone without inherent loyalties, without critical memory, a true tabula rasa, a blank slate. The theory, derived from a chilling mix of psychiatric research and Cold War paranoia, was that you couldn't control the mind until you first destroyed it. This required a complete and systematic attack on the self, achieved through what the project documents refer to as environmental nullification, or the black box. This was a place where time, gravity, sight, and sound, the very anchors of consciousness, were eliminated. This episode is about the environment designed to shatter the soul and the bureaucratic secrets used to hide the shattering. The black box was the key tool of Subproject 130. It was an engineering solution to a psychological problem. The design principles were simple: minimize all sensory input to break the brain's baseline perception of reality. Engineering the void. The subjects, who are often unnamed in the documentation, a point we will return to, were placed in tanks or specialized rooms constructed with multiple layers of acoustic and thermal insulation. The reason? 1. Sensory denial, sight and sound. Subjects wore opaque, light-proof goggles and heavy military-grade noise-canceling headsets. The chambers themselves were designed to eliminate low-frequency vibration, preventing the inner ear from registering sound, or even deep environmental hums. Proprioceptive loss, gravity. The most crucial and often overlooked element was the elimination of the sense of self in space. Subjects were frequently suspended in saline solution heated precisely to body temperature. This eliminated the sensation of gravity and the boundary between the subject's skin and the external environment. And 3, time disorientation. The isolation created a psychological time warp. Without the rising sun, the movement of a clock, or the distinct rhythm of daily life, the brain's internal clock rapidly dissolved. The documents note that sessions, which sometimes lasted only 48 hours, were perceived by subjects as spanning weeks, months, or even just seconds. This environmental context was designed to make the mind desperate for any input, making it hypersuggestible and vulnerable to the coming chemical assault. The drugs used in Subproject 130 were not administered to get information. They were administered to obliterate the capacity for holding information. They were chemical additives, substances designed to enhance the effect of the primary psychological stressor, i.e., the isolation. Subproject 130 protocol mandated a cocktail approach, often cycling between sedatives and massive destabilizing hallucinogens. LSD, used in colossal doses not to induce visions but to fundamentally disconnect the subject's cognitive processes from their internal emotional responses. The goal was to render memory retrieval and critical thinking chaotic and unreliable. BZ, the use of BZ, a powerful agent, is especially chilling. BZ induces a prolonged state of acute delirium, where the subject cannot distinguish fantasy from reality. Administering this while the subject is already floating in a featureless void effectively eliminates reality as a concept altogether. Prolonged narcosis. Often the sections were punctuated by periods of extended chemically induced sleep, sometimes lasting days. The document suggests that this was used to break down the subject's sleep-wake cycle, further disrupting temporal awareness and preventing any opportunity for the psyche to stabilize and heal. Document reference Subproject 130 internal analysis, synergistic drug effects in RHI. Quote from the document: the combination of sensory nullification and high-dose drugs creates a state where the ego defenses are functionally absent. The subject's resistance to external suggestion is eliminated at the core, preparing the neural architecture for re-encoding. End quote. This re-encoding was the ultimate goal, the insertion of a new CIA-approved identity. Once the subject was medically destabilized and environmentally stripped, the few moments of active consciousness were used for targeted psychological attack. As mentioned previously, One of the primary techniques was the systematic degradation of autobiographical memory. The documents describe setting up microphone systems to capture the subject's own ramblings, confessions, and moments of emotional distress while they were high. These recordings were then filtered, distorted, and played back to the subject while they were emerging from BZ-induced delirium or under heavy sedation. The message was simple: your memories are lies. The playback would often be interspersed with conflicting data or external commanding voices, causing a phenomenon known as confabulation induction, forcing the subject to create false memories to fill the profound cognitive gaps. The goal was to make the subject's own life narrative seem like a confused nightmare, leading to the desperate rejection of their own history. The few progress reports that survive discuss the moments of success. Here's a document. Subproject 130 Progress Report, Observation of Identity Disruption. Here's the quote. Subject's response to mere presentation during peak disorientation indicates success. Subject showed no recognition, referring to his own reflection as the guard or the new one when asked to name himself. Subject was unable to provide a constant identity, cycling through 3 distinct pre-programmed names. Operational goal achieved, psychologically wiped. End quote. This success was the terrifying point where the original self had been erased. But what happened next? The attempts at re-implanting a new personality is what ultimately led to the project's failure. The documents related to Subproject 130 and environmental nullification are riddled with heavy systematic redactions. By studying what was consistently concealed, we can accurately hypothesize about the agency's intent. The most extensive and consistent redactions fall into 3 key categories. 1. The experimenters and their institutions. What is redacted? The names, universities, and specific institutional affiliations of the lead researchers and supervising psychiatrists. Hypothesis for redaction. Legal and professional liability. The CIA did not want these high-profile doctors to face legal action or professional ruin decades later. Exposure would have provided concrete evidence of medical malpractice and ethical violations for potential civil suits. Furthermore, it would expose the mechanism through which the CIA recruited America's top medical professionals, ensuring future covert programs could continue without public oversight. The redaction protects the system of recruitment more than the individuals. 2. The source of funding and materials. What is redacted? The specific non-CIA front organizations used to funnel money and acquire the vast quantities of specialty chemicals like BZ and technical equipment like the soundproofing and saline tanks. Hypothesis for redaction. Denial and plausible deniability, revealing the front organizations would expose the entire operational network. If the public knew that a certain prestigious research foundation or a specific pharmaceutical company was a CIA cutout, the entire MK-Ultra enterprise and the CIA's ability to operate domestically would be irrevocably compromised. This protects the financial and logistical infrastructure of covert operations. 3. The final disposition and long-term fate of subjects. What is redacted? Specific details regarding the subject's post-experiment condition, their institutional placement, and the financial settlement, if any, used to ensure their silence or permanent institutionalization. The documents rarely use the term death, but heavily redact all details regarding final transfer or long-term disposition. Hypothesis for redaction. Public relations and scandal mitigation. The operational failure of Subject 130 was the creation of permanent psychological casualties, people who were rendered completely insane and unusable, revealing that the CIA permanently incapacitated U.S. or Allied citizens and then had to secretly fund their long-term institutional care would be the ultimate public relations disaster, proving the criminality of the project beyond doubt. The black ink is not hiding military secrets. It is hiding legal liability, professional malpractice, and the devastating human cost of a failed experiment in human engineering. Subproject 130 proved that while you could break a person, you could not reliably rebuild them. The human mind, once shattered in this way, became pathologically unreliable. The final review documents confirmed that the program was terminated not on humanitarian grounds, but because the subjects created were unacceptably destructive as assets. They were too unstable, too prone to psychosis, and too likely to expose the project through their erratic behavior. The risk outweighed the benefit. The black box remains a testament to the CIA's extreme reach during the Cold War, a moment when intelligence agencies acted as godlike architects of the human psyche, only to find the structure they were trying to build collapsed into permanent ruins. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the true cost of depatterning. Next, we turn our attention to the physical methods of psychological warfare. We will analyze the disturbing protocols of MKUltra Subproject 88, which explored the use of extreme psychological stress and electric shock therapy combined with chemical agents. We analyzed the documents detailing the agency's pursuit of methods to rapidly induce profound controlled trauma, the goal being to totally destabilize the subject before attempting personality reconstruction. Join us next time for CIA Declassified, MKUltra Subproject 88, Electric Shock and Induced Trauma. Until then, understand the depths of shadow government, maintain your vigilance, and keep your critical thinking sharp. I'll see you in the archives.